Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cartoon Boom. This is a show where awake with a Saturday morning sun popped on the floor with a big bowl of sugary cereal and will enjoy your favorite cartoons, both old and new. I'm your lovable robotic space weapon, Joseph.
And I'm a federal agent looking to catch me a robot. My name's Chris.
and this morning we watched The Iron Giant.
I broke you a little bit with that one. I got you to laugh.
I wasn't expecting you to go with Mansley right off the bat. So the least liked character in really the only unlikable character in this entire movie, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. He's kind of likable at first, like a little bit of a scoundrel.
A little bit.
Then he goes so dark.
Yeah. He becomes like a danger to America.
Yeah. Basically,
I wonder public enemy number one.
That's like, yeah, that was interesting for sure. This was suggested to us by Mike Root, so thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
So the movie The Iron Giant came out in 1999, based on the 1968 novel The Iron Man by Ted Hughes, directed by Brad Bird, screenplay by Tim McCanless and Brad Bird, produced by Warner Brothers Feature Animation. For a short synopsis, a young boy befriends a giant robot from outer space that a paranoid government agent wants to destroy.
Now, I don't remember him in the MCU. I don't remember this character in there. Did he, was he in Endgame? Did he fight Thanos?
Yes, he was the Iron Man.
Yeah.
When it's singing the song, I Am Iron Man, they're talking about him.
They're talking about, the Iron Man.
Yeah, not Tony Stark.
Yes. Okay, makes sense now. I'm there.
Complete sense.
I'm here for it. Yeah.
Who are some of the actors who played in this movie?
So Hogarth Hughes was voiced by Eli Marienthal, Hogarth being the main character that we kind of followed, the little boy. And Hogarth, what an awful name for a child. And I think even like Agent Mansley even says that at some point,
Yeah.
like what kind of name is that? But it's true, like Hogarth is a last name. Don't name a child Hogarth. Like, who thought of that and just needs to be ashamed of themselves?
Yeah, but at least we got Hug out of it.
Yeah, Hug. But still, ugh. What a terrible name. Annie Hughes was voiced by Jennifer Aniston, which is a name I didn't think I'd ever see pop up in our podcast. But there it is. You know, obviously known for her live action roles like Friends and all of the many movies that she's been a part of. The Iron Giant, or the Iron Man, as we now know him, was voiced by Vin Diesel. And I'm not sure if he is a real truck, but that's a bad joke. Just ignore me. Ignore me.
Moving on.
Do you think he's drinking? Does he consume gasoline in this economy?
I don't know. Maybe
I'm making more boomer jokes.
I feel like this joke line needs to stop. Just kill it in its tracks.
Hang on. Let me think of another one.
No mas.
No, but okay. So this is why I didn't look up the cast at all until after I had watched the film. And when he first started talking, I'm like, sounds like Groot. And then I saw the credits and I was like, oh, yeah, that's Groot.
Yeah.
Got it. So when James Gunn was just like, hey, Vin Diesel, can you just be the Iron Giant, but as a tree for my movie? I guess he was just like, I could do that. And then we got Groot.
I guess he's just synonymous now for big things who don't speak very much.
Yeah, just big gravelly voices.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen an image of Vin Diesel but with hair?
No, I feel like
it looks wrong.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like even possible. Like he was born without hair and he's never had it as far as I know.
He's had it.
No.
I think there's a movie of him playing it's like some sort of courtroom drama or something, and he's got hair. And not a lot of it, but he does have it, and it's not great. I see why he shaved it.
That looks weird. Yeah.
Did you find it?
I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's not good. Yeah. It kind of ruins everything, doesn't it?
It doesn't even look like the same person.
No.
Yeah.
He just looks like some schmo that walked in off the street and wants to be a fancy lawyer.
Well, he's like
in that movie.
He's like Stone Cold. Like Steve Austin looks not great with hair, but without hair, amazing.
Yeah.
Some people are just born to be bald.
Yeah.
BTBB.
It's true. I like that. Obviously, Vin Diesel from Guardians of the Galaxy, as I said, also Chronicles of Riddick. And I don't even remember what the movie was that came from. Was it Pitch Black or something like that?
Pitch Dark, I think.
That whatever. It was real dark. And also
oh no, it was Pitch Black. You're right.
Oh, see, there we go. Also Triple X, which is not dirty movies, but don't go to Google and type XXX in it. Just don't. But that was the movie he was in. You can do it in IMDb, but don't do it in Google, please.
Yeah, probably don't.
That was also a bad movie. The character of Dean was voiced by Harry Connick Jr., and then the character of Agent Kent Mansley, voiced by Chris McDonald. Now, I guessed this guy right off the bat also. So as soon as I heard his voice, I was like, oh, that's Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore. Like, I immediately knew this voice. But that's the only thing I recognize this actor as. And I know he's done tons of things, but I'm always just like, Shooter McGavin. That's him, you know? But he's actually done some voice acting and stuff over the years for animated films and cartoons and stuff. He's actually voiced a lot of DC characters.
Really?
He has voiced Superman, Superman's father, Jor-El, and he's voiced Harvey Dent in various series and animated films over the years. So I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, Harvey Dent I could see. Superman, I don't know. That seems like, I don't know. He just doesn't, his voice doesn't seem like it would fit Superman. Yeah.
Maybe if Superman was like just a real jerk and like poking fun at everybody.
Yeah. Maybe if it was like the Ultraman from like the Dark Universe version.
Nah, it wasn't.
No. All right.
That's it.
Okay. Well, for a few tasty marshmallows out of our big bowl of Iron Giant cereal, although the film received high praise from critics, it was deemed a box office failure, grossing only $23 million after a reported $70 million budget. The low earnings were partly due to the fact that the film had its nationwide debut on the same day as a successful Sixth Sense from 1999. So, it was bad timing combined with, according to Brad Bird, the director, he says in the documentary The Giant's Dream that Warner Brothers failed to promote the film until 4 months before release, whereas the animated film Tarzan had teasers out 1 year in advance. So it got released on a bad day. It didn't get proper like promotion before release. So it was just lined up to fail box office wise, which is so unfortunate because it's such a great movie.
That's interesting to me, though, because even though I didn't see it as a child, because heads up, guys, this is the first time I've ever seen this film. I remember trailers and advertisements and posters for this film. I remember a ton about like the time that this came out. I remember like the art and the aesthetic and everything, having never seen it. So I don't know. I just think that's really surprising to me.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the truth behind all of it is, or really why it was a box office failure. It may have just like turned people off from it because it was an animation that looked like it was made for kids. And it is, but there's a lot more to it. It's a very layered film.
Yeah, I would say it's on the surface made for kids, but there is some real dark stuff hidden in there that is definitely, I don't know, like things that as a child I would not have understood whatsoever, especially the amount of stuff about the Red Scare and just kind of like there's almost like this subtle horror, like psychological horror aspect just under the surface, like this tension under the surface the whole time of this like looming nuclear threat with the Red Scare and everything. Like you see like the little film they're watching, you see posters and things like that about like what to do when the sirens go off and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think that is very, I don't know, glossed over when you think back on the film, I would assume.
Yeah, and you see Sputnik in space and you see like how like even the army is basically like, yeah, this duck and cover thing isn't going to do anything. Like it's pointless. So it's all just like publicity. So Brad Bird was in part inspired to make this film as a memorial to his sister Susan, who died at the hands of her estranged husband by gun violence.
Oh.
His pitch was this: what if a gun had a soul and didn't want to be a gun? So that was Brad Bird's pitch
Whoa.
to the studio. So
Wow.
that kind of really you hear that, like knowing that, you really hear that restated a lot in this movie.
That is crazy deep. I
Yeah.
would never have guessed. But wow, that makes this movie mean even more than it already does. Like the message carries even more weight knowing the reason that it was made. Holy crap.
Yeah, and I can imagine the same would be true for him, especially.
Yeah. Jeez.
This film, like I said, was based on a novel, The Iron Man. Author of the novel, Ted Hughes, who bears the same name as the characters Annie and Hogarth Hughes, wrote the novel as a way of comforting his children after the suicide of their mother, Sylvia Plath. So again...
wow. Sylvia Plath was his mom?
Not his mom. It was his wife. He wrote it as a way of comforting his children after their mother committed suicide.
Holy crap. Okay, so he was married to Sylvia Plath.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let me let little lost emo goth Chris out of his cage real quick from yesteryear. There was a time when Chris went through a very Sylvia Plath stage.
Really?
Where I was very into Sylvia Plath poetry and just how dark and gothic it was, and just how emotional everything was. Yeah, she had a lot of issues, man. There's a really good movie starring Gwyneth Paltrow all about it. I think just called Sylvia. But man, yeah, her suicide was not great. That was rough. She had some demons, man, for sure.
I can imagine. But yet another layer of the emotion that went into both writing the book and then the movie that came from it.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. This whole thing is so centered around tragedy. It really gives a lot more breadth to, and making the core lessons of this thing way more poignant. Like, I don't know. It just hammers it all home so much more now.
Definitely. So the animators initially were concerned with the giant believably saying the word Superman with its inflexible machine mouth. According to Jeffrey Lynch, there was an actual applause during the dailies when they perfected how to achieve this. So you can imagine like Superman, like it's got that P in there, so it's like purse your lips or anything. So they were trying to figure out how to get, I guess, the giant to say that believably with his metal mouth. And it worked.
I was just trying to do it myself. Try to do it without making the P sound. Superman. Superman. Superman.
Sugar Man.
I don't know.
Yep.
Sugar Man.
It seems like it'd be tough. So yeah, like they were very excited that they were able to get it.
Yeah. Okay.
So you had never seen this before. I had seen this once before, but not even like a super long time ago, maybe just a few years ago. So it's something that I also missed out on in my childhood. I was happy to watch it again, though, and I will probably continue watching it as the years go by because it's just such a great movie and it still holds up so well.
Yeah, I'm honestly pretty surprised that I didn't watch this back in the day, and I'm kind of bummed out that I didn't, honestly. But I actually, I don't know. It's a little bit of both for me. A little bummed out, but also kind of appreciating the idea that I saw it as an adult because I'm seeing so much more of it, like understanding so much more of it than I would have. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of torn.
Like you said earlier, so much of this is something that would go right over a kid's head for the most part. There's some fun action scenes and there's some light comedy to it, but a lot of it is very deep to where you can definitely enjoy it as a parent or just an adult in general because of its darker themes behind it.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start talking about the movie from the start, which is where almost right away we get to see this comet heading towards Earth. It passes the Russian satellite Sputnik. And so that's where, like you said, the Red Scare comes in. This is during the times of, I guess, I'm not sure if it's like post Cold War or during the Cold War. So it races towards Earth and it crashes into the ground it crashes into the ocean. And so we're seeing this ship that's trying to, find its way through this, I guess, this fog. And the first person to encounter the giant is just this, I'm not sure if he's a fisherman or what he is, but he crashes right into it and you just see this ominous large figure with these lights that he thinks are the lighthouse shining down on him.
Yeah. Oh my God. I got to say too, that scene was probably, well, first of all, the art of this movie is gorgeous.
Yes.
Joel, I think it's pronounced Parad or Parad, was like the background artist for this film. And it is all so beautiful. It just kind of blew my mind. But this was there's several instances, like several scenes where it's just like the frame of the movie just looks like a well-placed piece of art. But this scene where that boat crashes up against the giant in the water, and the giant is turned towards the left, and you just see the singular light at the top. And you know, that character are thinking it's the lighthouse because it's just got the one shining light. And then as it slowly turns and you see the two lights because it's the eyes. Oh my God, was that a cool scene? What a great way to intro that thing.
Yeah, it is like you could see why people were terrified of this.
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, I loved that background art so much of this film. And I was trying to think of what it reminded me of. And I realized it reminds me of the art of it's Walt Paragoy, who he used to work for Disney and a lot of other stuff. But he did like the background art for also like the original Scooby-Doo show. So like those really Art Deco, Gothic, real painted backgrounds and things like
also,
that.
Also like 101 Dalmatians, like that really kind of patchy art, if you remember that.
Yeah, I think he did quite a few of the original Disney films and stuff. So his artwork is just fantastic. But I feel like that this guy for the Iron Giant, he had to have taken inspiration from this dude because it was just as beautiful as anything this guy had done. So I can't stop gushing about it. But like every scene was just something to really admire and look at.
I think that's a problem we're going to run into a lot through this movie, is having to stop and appreciate parts of this movie as we come to them, because it is just so good. No scene is meaningless, and every scene is just a beautiful portrait to look at.
Agreed.
So after this happens and the guy kind of like he crashes into the Iron Giant and his ship wrecks, and so he sort of gets washed on shore. Cut to the Rockwell, the town of Rockwell, which is where they end up in Maine. And you see this guy trying to tell all these people in a diner like what he saw, but nobody believes him because I guess he's kind of the town drunk. So they just think he's making it up. And this is also where we get the introduction of Annie and Hogarth. Annie being his mom, she is a waitress at this diner, and Hogarth comes in with a box with a pet in it, which I guess he's known for bringing in these stray animals. And this one's a squirrel, so he's trying to convince his mom to let him keep it. And the squirrel escapes. And once it starts running around is how we get introduced to Dean, because it runs under his table and then eventually up his pants legs. But Dean is this, he owns, I guess, and works at the junkyard, and he's like a beatnik artist, I guess, is kind of what his thing is.
And I got to tell you, if there's anything I'm not a big fan of in this film, that would be it, is Dean.
Dean? Really?
I'll talk more about it later, but
okay.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Dean.
I like Dean.
You would.
So yeah, the squirrel runs up his pants, and he has to, it's kind of a funny scene where he has to unzip his pants. He apologizes to everybody in the diner. He's like, I'm sorry for this. Unzips his pants. The squirrel just pops out and starts running around. So we cut to then Annie telling Hogarth on the phone that like he, isn't supposed to have late night snacks, watch scary movies, and be in bed by 8. And we're seeing him directly after that do the opposite. He's staying up late watching this bad sci-fi, like invader, like, I don't know, this movie about this giant brain or something, giant living brain. And also like intentionally poorly acted, which is great. I love the aesthetic of that. And then this is also where we first get introduced to the Iron Giant. Well, at least where Hogarth does, because the power goes out or his TV goes out, and he sees like a trail of the giant's footsteps, or it's the chaos it's causing as it's walking through his yard. And I think it ate his antenna. So he's just trying to now go on the hunt because he's home alone for what he thinks is an invader from Mars, since he's being influenced by this movie.
Yeah, and there's like, as he's going through like the woods and stuff near his house, there's like wrecked trees. Clearly something big had gone through. So he's kind of like going around, like going over trees that have fallen down and stuff. And this is coming up on another scene that I really like, that really stood out to me, of when Hogarth, he's kind of like waiting behind a tree because he can see some like flashing light, and you're kind of thinking, oh, he's gonna come up on the giant, and he's got his BB gun in his hand, and he's like, it's like a rifle, think like a Christmas Story, like the that kind of rifle thing, that BB rifle.
Yeah, you'll shoot your eye out.
Yeah, and he's ready to like face down whatever's out there. So he pops out from this behind this tree, and he's standing in front of this big like power plant, this big like it's just like electricity kind of thing. And the way that's framed, like you're almost kind of looking from a little bit behind Hogarth and a little bit farther down, almost worm's eye view, as this huge power plant looms behind him. And it's almost like a cool foreshadowing of like, we get faked out. It's not the giant, but we're still seeing this huge monstrosity thing loom over him that's like big and cold, and there's electricity and stuff there. So we get that fake out, and like very soon, once we see from the other angle looking back at Hogarth, like from the front, then the giant is behind him, and then we get that payoff, and the giant like walk past him to try to get a big old snack on that electrical power plant, which does not go the way he wants. Starts like shocking the crap out of him, going hang wire. Can't control himself, can't let it go.
Well, he gets stuck in the power lines.
Yeah, and Hogarth is, freaking out, of course, because who wouldn't freak out if this giant robot just walks over the top of you and then starts chowing down on this giant electrical grid? But I think he starts realizing this thing's screaming in pain, and he feels bad, and he runs over and finds this huge switch, because I didn't know if you guys knew this. Electrical power plants have this one really big off switch.
Yeah.
Right at the front door. So if you run up there and just switch it to off, you can shut down the grid for the entire county.
Yep. Just pull that lever.
That's what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it frees our Iron Giant friend, who then instantly wants to befriend Hogarth for saving his life, essentially.
Yeah, so he shuts it off, and then he goes home, and his mom is upset with him because he's trying to explain it to her, or actually what happens is she gets home and she's looking for him because he's not in his room, and she's worried, so she's driving around looking. He like sees her car and like stops in front of it, or it stops in front of him. And so he's trying to explain it. She gets upset with him for, first just not being at home and making up what she thinks are just stories. So that's when we cut back over to school. We get that atomic holocaust PSA that you were talking about earlier, where it's the kids watching those like videos telling them to, duck and cover, like get under their desk, whatever, and they'll be safe.
Yeah.
But it plays it in like a very joking sort of way, or very like not joking, but like a tongue-in-cheek sort of way.
It's got like a little cartoon mascot, telling him what to do and everything. And it's like, duck and cover. And, trying to make light of it and make it not scary. Because, the reality is, if a nuke drops, if you've played Fallout, it's not going to work out.
Yeah, it's not going to go real well.
I mean, I say Fallout. We've seen, in real life, there's no getting cover from that. I mean, if the nuke drops, you're kind of done. And that's what I'm talking about with that, like looming, that real dark kind of undertone to this entire like movie. That is this looming threat kind of throughout. And in a way, it's kind of like a threat that might not actually be there, but it does show up in a very roundabout way, a way that you wouldn't expect if you hadn't seen the movie before. So that gets really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of antics that you might assume from, a relationship of a child who is notorious for keeping pets that he's not supposed to keep, and now has this giant thing that he's trying to hide from his mother. You think about the kind of antics that might ensue, especially trying to keep that hidden on his, own property. So there's a lot of really funny gags and things like that, especially when they're home later that day and like they're trying to have dinner. The Iron Giant can kind of take himself apart a little bit, and his pieces can act of
independently.
Yeah. So his hands like roaming around the house, and Hogarth's trying to distract his mom as much as he can, which ends up ruining several things in the house. It's very, very funny.
I love it when they were eating dinner and he was saying grace, and
that's a great scene.
Yeah, so he sees the giant hand from the Iron Giant in his house, like in the kitchen, like messing with stuff, and he's just like, "Oh my god!" like as part of his grace, and he keeps trying to like redirect it to convince his mom he's still saying grace. So he's just like, "Stop the devil from doing bad things. Get out of here, Satan. Stuff like that." Yeah. That was a really fun scene.
That was one of the best scenes of the film. It was so funny.
Definitely one of the funniest, for sure.
Yeah, I really, really like that. There's a little thing that's hinted at too, that in one of the windows of their house they have a sign that says "room for rent," and eventually, I guess we have to mention this, this side story of Agent Mansley, who comes and is following up with first like the town drunk and then some other people about this ludicrous story, because it's been reported that there's aliens or something out here. So, he's doing his report, he doesn't believe it and stuff until his car gets picked up and eaten. And then he definitely believes there's something going on.
Right.
So, yeah, he starts his investigation. He finds the BB gun, the rifle, during part of his investigation, and it has Hogarth's name on it, which leads him back to eventually.
It doesn't say Hogarth's name on it
this is
at
like
this point. It's like it says Hog, like Hogarth Hughes. Yeah. And so he just kind of wanders to Annie and Hogarth's house because it's like near the area that the reports were coming from.
Yeah, he needs a phone.
Yeah, he needed a phone to call the general to try to get more support, but the general's basically like, "I'm not going to send an army on because you have a feeling that something is happening. Like, give me proof, give me a photo, or you got nothing." So he's upset, and this part of the movie is just him kind of going around looking for clues, trying to find a picture, seeing if Hogarth is in some way connected, because Hogarth is acting very suspiciously since he is a kid trying to hide this giant secret.
Yeah. And when he does find that, the hug on there, he puts two and two together, figures out it belongs to Hogarth, especially in talking with Annie. And Annie says, Hogarth, your BB gun. Oh yeah, you lost that out in the woods. And he's like starting to question her about it. And she's like, "Yeah, I was going on about some sort of like, big robot or something like that." And that was really when he's just like, he knew what was going on. So he ends up renting the room at their house specifically so he can spy on Hogarth.
Right.
Much to Hogarth's dismay, because he literally follows Hogarth around town one day until Hogarth puts like chocolate laxative in his like shake or his ice cream sundae or whatever.
Yeah, because his mom, Hogarth's mom, tells him to show Mansley around town, show him the sights, and he's upset. So he does finally, get away from him by slipping him that laxative. This whole time, he has been storing the Iron Giant, or at least sheltering the Iron Giant, at the junkyard with Dean. And after a really funny scene of them first getting there, and just so the giant can eat something, and then them, Dean coming out and trying to find out what the problem was, where Hogarth was trying to convince him to let the giant stay. when Hogarth goes in first, he drinks this espresso because he's trying to be cool. And since he's out so late,
That
yeah,
was a good scene.
Dean warns them. He's like, I mean, it's more than coffee. This is espresso, which is like CoffeeZilla. And he's just like, I'm cool. I drink coffee all the time. I can do it. And that leads us to him like talking super fast about how he was moved up a grade and like the kids at school are making fun of him or picking on him because he's so much younger. And it's like, well, people just did the homework, then they can move up too, and blah, 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 blah. So he's just talking like at a super fast rate. The important part of this is where Dean says, like, who cares what these creeps think of you? You are who you choose to be, which is a super important point in this movie and something that repeats later.
Yep. And some of that is also echoed from Hogarth to the Iron Giant itself, because we've got to talk about the deer scene. Because that is a lot of that's extremely important. That's kind of a turning point in the film where we start to figure out a little bit of maybe what the Iron Giant really is, because they see a deer out in the woods together as they're kind of going on a hike. I think this might have been when they were on their way to the scrapyard for the first time, but I don't remember 100%. They see this deer, the Iron Giant, bends down, puts his finger out, the deer's sniffing it. They hear gunshots, the deer runs away, they hear more gunshots, and then they come across these two hunters standing over the now dead deer, and the giant is horrified. The hunters, show their guns, and then they're scared of the giant, run away. But the Iron Giant, seeing the guns, his eyes turn to like this, turn red. He basically goes into this like complete other mode where he doesn't have like quite control of himself. And we don't see the full breadth of it just yet, but we can tell that he like something is triggering in him. And it's like he was about to go into like attack mode or something.
Something to point out is also that the giant at this point has a large dent in his head, so he can't remember what his purpose is there or who he is or where he's even from. So this, like his eyes turning red and kind of going into weapon mode, is just a defense mechanism that he has when he sees a gun. And so that really comes into play a little bit later when he and Hogarth are playing in the junkyard after they convince the army that, there's no giant here. It comes to the point where Mansley, he finds a photo of Hogarth and the giant together from the camera that he had left behind or lost in the forest. And after that, like he convinces the army to come and support him. They manage to there's this one scene I have to bring up because it's like this is where it's like, okay, I don't know if this is a super safe for super young kids movie, because it's a scene where Hogarth gets kidnapped by Mansley, like tied up and basically interrogated in his barn. Like he threatens Hogarth by telling him that the government can take him away from his mom and basically put him up for adoption or into the orphanage or something. And like that's what finally convinces Hogarth to tell him where the giant is hiding. And then he uses chloroform and puts him to sleep and puts him in bed. But then since he's staying there with them, sits across from the room, or is across from the Hogarth's room in the other room beside him, and is just watching him the whole night to make sure he doesn't try to do anything because the army is going to come in the morning. So fast forward through that, army finally gets there, but Hogarth had been able to sneak out and at least warn Dean and the giant to prepare for this. So we see the army go to the junkyard, and Dean convinces them that the giant is a work of art because he is, like I said, a beatnik artist who is using the scraps from the junkyard to make his own like statues and stuff. So the giant's not moving. He's convincing them that it's just like an art piece, an art installation, and that he's already trying to sell it, or someone is already trying to buy it off him, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what like makes the army finally leave. And, Mansley is embarrassed and they start driving away. So in celebration, Hogarth and the giant start to play together in the Lansfield. And Hogarth has one of those little like laser guns. Like I've seen them before, and probably everybody's seen those little like metal ones that like when you pull it, it makes that little like spark on the tip of it where it's like, and he points it at the giant, playfully, and that's when like he really does go into attack mode. And I think the first time he accidentally gets out of the way or falls over and the lasers like come right at him and like melt through this car. Dean is seeing this from like the other side of the junkyard and comes running over as he sees it happening again and jumps in and pushes Hogarth out of the way. And that's when they shame the giant into leaving, because at the time, Dean didn't know that it was a defensive thing. He thought that the giant was really trying to kill Hogarth.
Yeah, the giant like brandished a weapon of its own, shot basically twice. That second time, yeah, if Dean hadn't tackled Hogarth out of the way, Hogarth would be dead. Mm-hmm. So Dean freaks out, is screaming at the giant to get out of there. The giant is horrified at what it did, because it's one of those things too that the giant was not really in control. It was almost like a reflex, like a survival instinct thing, and didn't mean to do it and was just so ashamed of itself. Yeah, it left immediately, and Hogarth was very upset about it. But by the time Hogarth convinced Dean that it was just a defense mechanism, that the giant didn't mean to do it, and Dean and Hogarth jump on Dean's motorcycle to go find the giant. The giant has already walked away like so far and is passing by the larger part of town. And there's these two children up on this building, and they had binoculars out. They were watching the convoy of the army leaving town, because all this stuff's kind of all happening so quickly all at once. They then see the giant and they're freaking out, and they fall off of the top of this building, and they're just kind of hanging on. They're screaming for help. All these townspeople are stopping and watching. The Iron Giant hears it, runs over there, saves these kids as they're falling, and is kind of, I guess, welcomed sort of by the town. Not so much welcome because he doesn't really get that much time for it, but as he is running over there and saving them, Mansley, who is with the army convoy, sees Dean and Hogarth zip by, going the opposite way on the motorcycle. He turns to see them, sees the giant in town, wrecks his car into the rest of the convoy. When the general gets out, turns around, they all see the giant there. So the army turns around, goes after the giant, and then all hell breaks loose. Like the military immediately starts firing everything they have at the giant. Even as he had put these children down, Hogarth was just, so happy and trying to apologize to the giant and say, like, we understand you didn't mean it. And the giant picks him up. Even with Hogarth in his hands, they are just lighting him up with guns, with missiles, anything they got. They're just letting him have it. Grenades. They're tear gassing the crowd, everything.
A couple of things to point out as we get to the end here is that Hogarth had been teaching the giant to speak throughout the film. And one of the things that kept being repeated was that guns are bad, killing is bad. And the giant would say, like, I am not a gun, basically.
Yes.
Because technically he is a weapon, but Hogarth tells him like he has a choice on what he does with that power. He can use his power for good, and he shows him this by showing him Superman, who is also an alien who comes down and uses his power for good. And the deer scene you were talking about earlier, that's where he kind of tries to teach the giant about the value of life, and how even though he is like a robot, the fact that he feels things and is thinking about things means he must have a soul, because what his mom had told him was that a soul belongs to all good things, and a soul is basically lasts forever. So that's something that has kept the giant thinking and has, I guess, given him a new perspective on just life in general. And the fact that it is temporary, because Hogarth also tells him that he is going to die one day, but, he's not sure about the giant. Like, what's going to happen with him?
Exactly. Someone tells Mansley that the giant's carrying the kid. Mansley lies to the general and says that the giant just killed the kid.
Yeah.
So they throw everything at this giant, which causes the giant tries to fly off to get Hogarth out of harm's way. They blow him out of the sky with some jets that fly overhead, crashes to the ground, and it ends up knocking Hogarth out. And, based off of everything you just said, obviously the idea of death and things have been on the giant's mind So, and he doesn't understand unconsciousness, that's why would he?
Mhm.
So Hogarth is not getting up. He's not moving and assumes Hogarth is dead. And he goes ballistic. He's so mad. Man, that is such a powerful scene. And he doesn't just turn into a gun. He turns into like a billion guns. Like both arms, his chest, everything.
This is where he goes full War of the Worlds mode. And
yes,
that dent that I mentioned earlier in his head fixes itself. So he's back to full capacity. He is there to do what he was meant to do now, which is basically eradicate life.
Yeah. He just starts destroying everything. I don't want to say everything. He starts destroying the army, like all the army's vehicles, blowing up all of their tanks, shooting down their jets, destroying all of their convoy, just blowing up everything. And then the general is like, we're throwing everything at them or at him. Nothing is working. We're going to have to get a nuke. So they're talking about they've got a ship coming in because this is a coastal town off of Maine. They've got this battleship close enough that can start firing at him to lure him out away from, the civilians and stuff like that. Lure him out to sea because he tends to chase after whichever shoots him last. So they're like, okay, we'll have the ship shoot at him. Once he chases the ship, we send the nuke after him. So that's the plan. However, Hogarth wakes up, runs over, speaks some sense into the giant. The giant stops, sees reasoning, transforms back into his regular self, and all would be good, right? All's good. Except that when the ship is just like, your orders, sir. Mansley snatches the radio and tells them to fire the nuke.
Yep.
So they fire a nuke right at the giant, who is still standing in the middle of town. So essentially, he's about to nuke the United States. And the general is furious. He's like, you idiot, you've just killed all of us. And God, that horrific thought as like all of the people realize what's happening. And like when Annie asks Dean and stuff like that, should we go to a shelter? And Dean's just like, it's not going to matter. Like
right.
They all realize we're all gonna die. What
made that scene so powerful was instead of, like you would see in some other movies, like the whole town freaking out or running around or like causing havoc, like they all just like sit there sort of in silence and accept what's coming.
Yeah, they just watch it.
And that made it so sad. Yeah.
They just watch that nuke from a distance as it gets closer and closer. And yeah, it's just it's heavy, man. It just, the pit of your stomach just drops. Because there's nothing they can do. They're powerless.
Right. And Mansley being who he is, he's like, once he realizes like, oh no, like, what have I done? He starts trying to run. And like, I think the giant stops him or he runs into the giant. And so they pull him out of there. Hopefully they've arrested this man for committing a huge war crime.
Yeah. They're basically, if we're dying, you're dying with us.
Yeah, so. That's kind of how it is. And then the giant, in thinking about like the Superman comics he had been shown and knowing now that he can fly, goes up there to try to stop the missile. But before that is a really touching scene where earlier in the film, Hogarth had told the giant to stay put, not to follow him, when he was trying to keep him secret still from everybody. And this gets repeated by the giant to Hogarth, like telling him to stay there and not to follow because he's gonna, he's got to go do this. And he is who he's choosing to be, which is Superman. And so he's up there. He flies into space to stop this nuke that's coming down towards the town, and doesn't do something like crazy, like grab it and redirect it. Like he just like takes it head on. Yeah. And you just see the explosion in the sky. The town is safe. Everyone's safe, but the giant presumably has been destroyed.
Yeah. So, that part's super sad, but yeah, everyone's saved. We do a little bit of I'm not sure how long it is, but a little bit of a time jump. And we see, the town. There's now a statue in the town of the giant with a child in his hand. And, obviously something that Dean made and he's admiring it. And then Hogarth's mom, Annie, is there. And obviously Annie and Dean have now been dating for a little while.
Hogarth he's getting along with the kids at school finally.
Yeah, he's like wrestling around with them and all kinds of stuff. And we get to see all three of them, Hogarth, Dean, and Annie, kind of look on in admiration at the statue and stuff like that. And he is given, Hogarth is given this really big screw, which he is told that it's like in this little box. He's told that this is the only thing that they managed to recover, and the general felt that Hogarth deserved to have it. Yep. So it's like a bolt. It's the only thing that survived and was relocated. But that night it starts rattling, and when he looks at the box, it's empty, and he sees it clanking against its window. Now, we didn't mention this. The Iron Giant can reassemble himself when he's damaged. So we then know, oh, he's still alive. So Hogarth opens his window with a big old smile, and the screw goes flying out. And then we get treated to a scene in Iceland of all of these big pieces of the giant reassembling itself, and his big goofy head with a big old grin on it. And he's putting himself back together, and that's when the movie ends.
Yeah, because when he has this antenna come out of his head, it's kind of the remote that is calling all his pieces back for self-repair.
Yeah.
Ooh. So yeah.
Man, what a movie.
Well, Chris, looks like it's about time we send our kids to Rockwell to hang out with Hogarth and maybe get the giant to fly them around in a car while they perk up on Coffeezilla, then see what they thought of the movie, The Iron Giant.
This movie was so awesome! I wish a giant space robot would fall out of the sky and become my friend. Then I could take over the whole world.
Whoa, this movie is amazing! You're telling me there are giant metal robots out in space that just want to eat metal and be friends with kids? I think my parents have a couple crummy cars out front that they wouldn't mind sparing if it meant that I'd get a cool robo-friend. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure my school building is made of metal. Yeah, why don't we start there and see how you're feeling, big buddy?
Man, mine was always made of bricks. It was always bricks. That wouldn't feed a giant.
I just remember we had, and maybe it wasn't the big building, but we always had those like outside, almost like storage container buildings or like trailer ones.
Yeah, those big aluminum looking.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So he would at least get a good snack out of it.
Those things were always so hot. Ugh.
Yeah, because you're cooking inside of basically a big,
it's like a big oven,
metal box.
Right. So there's a lot of stuff that I know that we liked about this movie. We mentioned a lot of it, but if you could sum up some of the bigger things that you really liked, and then maybe pick out what the biggest one is, we can go into detail on that. But what were some of the things you liked about this movie?
Oh, I'm glad you asked.
Oh.
So this movie was equal parts hilarious, fun, and heartwarming. The animation and voice acting were top notch. Alongside that, the main characters were all fleshed out very well. Even the Iron Giant himself, who expressed himself surprisingly well through actions and facial expressions, which only added to the impact of the few words he did actually speak. The attachment that they make you feel towards the towering metal war machine is crazy. And conversely, you feel an equal amount of disdain towards Camp Mansley, and rightfully so, because he sucks. I mean, he was written and played fantastically, but you are meant to dislike him, and you definitely do. And as great as the action scenes were, especially the final battle when he goes into full-on attack mode, I really appreciate the quiet moments of this film. Like the deer scene we were talking about, where Hogarth is explaining the soul, and right after the nuke launches, where, like I said, instead of completely flipping out, everyone just sort of silently accepts their imminent deaths. Both of those were extremely powerful scenes that just will stick with me.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything you said. And some of my likes were things that I've mentioned already. The animation being so beautiful, these very iconic scenes just framed so beautifully throughout the film. And the juxtaposition of there being some real genuine funny moments, a lot of really good humor, and then also these really dark moments that we talked about, like, you know, the idea that this whole town just gives up, that their death is imminent, that it's coming, and there's nothing they can do about it. The looming threat of like the Red Scare, the idea that when the giant turns into, you know, the thing that he was supposed to be, Like, he looks kind of terrifying when he becomes the weapon and everything. And I like that you brought up War of the Worlds, because that really is kind of the idea that it evokes, is this giant machine of just absolute annihilation is really what he becomes. And it is kind of terrifying in a way. So, and his transformation really sums up what this movie can kind of be, is like, it can be big and gentle, and it also can be scary and harsh at the same time. And it does both really well. But yeah, the thing that I love the most about the movie is just the heart at the center of this relationship between these two characters of Hogarth and the giant. Specifically talking about like their conversations about death and everything like that. It was super, super deep. This idea that, you know, trying to teach this being what that means from a mortal or like a human standpoint. And I think Hogarth used a line of something like, I think this was around the deer scene. I think he said something about like, killing is bad, but dying can be good. And that's when he just says
dying isn't.
Yeah, dying isn't. So, and that's when he's talking about like the souls and everything like that. And, you know, giving him that explanation that because the giant can think and feel, that the giant has to have a soul too. So just that whole idea, and the fact that they let the giant contemplate that at multiple times in the movie, like that's not a one and done. There are times that you see the giant kind of laying around and looking up at the stars after that scene, and you know that he's thinking really deeply. And I just really love that about the film, that it has those moments of laughter. It has those moments of fear and terror and some tension, but it has these huge moments, the biggest moments, if you will, of quiet contemplation. And I absolutely love that. I think it's extremely rare to find in an animated film like this that you could easily write off as something for kids.
Was there anything that you disliked about the movie? And I feel like you're going to say Dean.
Yeah, let's talk about Dean real quick.
I want to hear your reasons why.
Let's talk about him. He's not that bad. I just got this feeling the movie really wants us to like Dean, and because he's supposed to be the cool guy, you know, he's the beatnik, he's the cool dude. I just didn't get there. Like, I thought he was okay, but to me, he never came across as like, oh man, what a great character. I was kind of like, yeah, I guess. Like, I mean, I like that he was protective of Hogarth. I think their budding relationship was interesting to me, but this is where I did have an issue with it, and I didn't like it. And it's fine the way it is, but I just didn't see it. The relationship that they started to establish, because of the way Dean acted and stuff, to me, it didn't feel like a father-son relationship. It felt like an older brother, little brother relationship. I just it didn't cross my mind for quite a while that this might be more of a father-son kind of relationship they're establishing. It just didn't feel that way. So like at the very end, when all of a sudden Dean and Annie are together, like, you know, him and Hogarth's mom, it felt a little shoehorned into me, because I was just like, man, they're just, even with scenes with them together and Dean would try to comfort Annie or something, I'm like, man, it just didn't feel like there was any chemistry there whatsoever. It just felt like they were following that path, you know, a typical format of kid finds surrogate father figure. So in the end, it means surrogate father figure has to become actual father figure by hooking up with mom for there to be the happy ending. So I just didn't feel like, it didn't feel natural to me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I didn't care for that.
This just sounds like something coming from someone who's never had a stepdad. And having had a few myself, I know that some of them try to be that like cool, like older brother kind of role just to make you like them more. And I'm not saying that's what's happening here exactly, but I didn't have any issues with Dean. I enjoyed how he was protective of Hogarth and how he was also protective of the Iron Giant once it got to that point, and also taught valuable lessons, or a valuable lesson at least, about being who you choose to be, which is kind of his whole thing, since he is a beatnik artist who lives in the junkyard he owns. So that's just kind of an interesting perspective for that to come from. I will will say, though, and this could be partially in defense of your point, that both Dean and Mansley were created for the movie. They were not part of the original book. So if they felt out of place, or if he felt out of place to you a little bit, then maybe that could be partially why.
Yeah, I would say out of all the characters, I think Dean's the only one that felt pretty out of place. Like Mansley, I wouldn't have expected it. But Dean, yeah, I don't know. He just stuck out like a sore thumb to me. And I, what I think would have fixed it is if Dean would have had some kind of moment of losing the cool facade or something. He really maintains that composure through almost the entire film. The only tiny bit is when he gets angry with the Iron Giant when the giant almost accidentally kills Hogarth and he yells at him. I mean, other than that, he's very aloof about pretty much everything. And I think if maybe they had written that character to crack his shell a little bit more, I might feel a little bit different about it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could see where you're coming from, but I like Dean. I just liked his character. So it's hard for me to, I don't agree with you, but I respect your opinion.
Yeah. No, but I think your points were completely valid though. And, and yes, I have not had a stepdad. So I think those differences in perspectives, I think are honestly like a good conversation and stuff, because yeah, my viewpoint on that would be very different than yours. So I totally get where you're coming from there. I think that's a really valid point. That said, do you have any dislikes of this?
I really don't. Like, I don't have any dislikes toward the movie. I think they played it out so well. It was wonderfully written, wonderfully acted, and animated. Like, all the above. Everything about it was great to me. The only negative thing I have to say regarding it is shame on Warner Brothers for not advertising it like they should have. Shame. Yeah. Because this should have been bigger than it ended up being, at least box office wise. I know it's become a cult classic since, which is great.
Right.
But it didn't get its time to shine, or didn't get its time in the spotlight when it should have.
Yeah, I totally see that. And I think it's weird. They could have had lightning in a bottle here. And I've even heard rumors over the last several years of a sequel to this thing. I don't think they should do it because I think it's once something's a cult classic, it needs to be left alone. Leave it alone. Don't touch it again. Let it be what it is. But I think at that point, it's them trying to save face and be like, oh, man, God, we screwed up so much. Maybe now we can make more money from it. And it's like, no, you guys had your chance. You had your chance.
This is one of those things, just like E.T., that they need to leave alone. And this would be a great companion film to E.T., actually, a good double feature, because they're very similar.
Did you hear about E2 that they're making?
Are you serious?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, they better not. Why?
I just thought if they did make one, they would totally call it E2. So, yeah.
Oh, no.
Extraterrestrial.
Extraterrestrial. Yeah. Oh, God. That's so bad.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So, yeah, this is one of those things that needs to be kept as it is and appreciated for that.
Yes, I agree with that. I can agree with that now that I've seen it.
So, overall, what would you rate this film?
Honestly, the movie's excellent in pretty much every single way, aside from Dean. But so much beautiful art. It's got a great story, lots of emotion. So many deep lessons and thought behind it all. So I can't help but give Iron Giant 5 bowls of Red Scare cereal out of 5.
Even though this movie didn't fare well financially when it was first released, I am glad that it's since become a cult classic. And while it's relatively simple conceptually, it's the layers beyond the surface that really make it shine. It covers the value of life and how we opt to spend ours, being who we choose to be. So overall, I'd give the Iron Giant 5 big bowls of I Am Superman cereal out of 5, and would absolutely recommend you check this one out if you haven't, or just rewatch it if you have.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. So thank you very much again to Mike for suggesting this.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I don't know if I would ever have gotten around to watching it if it hadn't been suggested. So I'm really glad that I finally got there. So.
Me too.
Wait, go on. Sorry.
I just said me too. I'm glad you got there.
You too. Yeah. You're glad I got there. Thank you. Oh, man. I wonder if there's ever been like a real cool Iron Giant cosplay. That'd be interesting. I wonder if anyone's ever pulled that off. I bet there's been a cool one.
I know, unfortunately, that he has made cameos in other movies. Like I remember he was in what is that one where it was like all the cameo stuff based on, and like Steven Spielberg made it. Dang it. It's
yeah. A Ready Player One.
Ready Player One, yes. Like he's in that, but not him, but he as an avatar is in that. And it's like, okay, cool, but also leave that franchise alone.
Yeah, don't touch him. Don't touch him. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up now and see if there's any cool Iron Giant cosplays, because I bet like that you'd have to get really, really creative to pull something so big off.
That's one that would involve stilts for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be really neat to see. Well, thank you to everyone that has rated and reviewed the podcast. If you haven't, please do that wherever you can. On any podcatcher, any app, you can do that. It really helps out the show, and it's something that you can do for free. It just takes a few seconds of your time. So whether that's Apple or Good Pods, Spotify, wherever you can do things. Also, make sure to check out the merch store at nerdsloth.com. Click on store. You can see all the new Cartoon Boom merch, as I talked about on the last episode. A lot of really cool stuff out there, and stuff for all of our other shows as well.
Well, listeners, looks like our milk supply is now run dry, so it's time for us to say goodbye. And next week, we'll be watching
Boy, Girl, Dog, Cat, Mouse, Cheese, suggested via Reddit by Twette Vegetable 862.
I don't understand any of what you just said. It sounds like you just spewed words at me.
It's the name of the show.
Hold on. Something dog, cat.
Boy, girl, dog, cat, mouse, cheese.
Cheese. This either
cheese.
sounds like something that's really old, really Canadian, or just is it a movie or a series?
It is a series, my friend.
Oh boy.
So your bets are old or Canadian?
Yeah. Because it seems like...
What if it's neither?
I say Canadian because it just feels like I would have heard of this in some fashion.
No, it's neither. It's neither old nor Canadian, sir.
Oh, man.
It's French.
29. Oh, French. That's why. Oh, the animation looks good, though.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna eat your skepticism, I think.
I probably will.
I don't know if you really will. I just saw, I had seen some of the art before this, and I was like, oh, this actually looks pretty cool. So,
art's great. Title could use some work, but hey, you know what?
I mean, could it? Because it looks like it is about a boy, a girl, a dog, a cat, a mouse, and a wheel of cheese. I mean, that seems like it's really explaining the show.
Yeah, but it's too spot on.
So they did too good of a way of titling it. Do you think they titled it for the SEO, you think?
That's like if they had named the Iron Giant, Boy Meets Iron Giant Who Sacrificed Himself to Avoid Nuclear Holocaust.
It's
just too literal.
Boy Robot Red Scare Time.
Yeah, Robot Red Scare Time. Mansley sucks.
Mansley, you suck. Yeah, I'm honestly looking forward to this. The more I look at the artwork, the more I'm really wanting to get into this one. So I'm honestly really looking forward to next week, and I hope it doesn't let me down.
We'll see.
If it does, let me down softly, real soft. Let me down soft on that, like a little velvety piece of cheese, please.
Well, once again, I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll see you next Saturday.
Presented by Nerdsloth,
a place for lazy nerds.
If you like what you heard, consider donating at patreon.com/nerdsloth so we can continue bringing you quality shows. Be sure to also leave us a review and share your favorite episodes and clips on social media. If you're looking for more content, visit us at nerdsloth.com.